Next on Currents News, an Iranian missile has shot down a U.S. drone over international waters. The latest reaction from President Trump at the White House. A big Supreme Court decision today clearing the way for a cross to remain standing on public land. What it means for the separation of church and state. I'll tell you about Catholic school kids who are taking action to help other kids. Plus, the fiery crash and the dramatic escape. We'll tell you what happened after a highway chain collision. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Emily Druby. The confrontation with Iran is getting more heated tonight. President Trump is saying the Islamic Republic made a very bad mistake when an Iranian missile shot down a U.S. drone. Corinne Kaifa has the latest from Washington.
Amid heightened tensions between Washington and Tehran, President Trump said the downing of an unmanned U.S. drone by Iran could have been an error.
I find it hard to believe it was intentional, if you want to know the truth. I think that it could have been somebody who was loose and stupid.
As to whether the U.S. plans a response.
Obviously, you know, we're not going to be talking too much about it. You're going to find out.
Iran claims the U.S. aircraft was in its airspace. The Pentagon, releasing this video they say shows the strike, says otherwise.
This was an unprovoked attack on a U.S. surveillance asset that had not violated Iranian airspace at any time during its mission.
The incident adding to recent volatility. On Monday, the Trump administration decided to send an additional 1,000 troops to the Middle East. The U.S. also blamed Iran for last week's attacks on oil tankers in the Gulf of Oman, attacks which increased tension in the entire region. Leaders on Capitol Hill have been eyeing the situation carefully.
We have to be strong and strategic about how we protect our interests. We also cannot be reckless in what we do.
Republican Senator Lindsey Graham said he spoke with President Trump Thursday.
I would encourage forceful action to stop this behavior before it leads to a wider conflict. Doing nothing has its own consequence.
Congressional leaders were invited to the White House for a briefing on Iran Thursday afternoon. In Washington, Karen Kaifa, Currents News.
Vladimir Putin is warning the United States not to use force against Iran as the tensions escalate. The Russian president, appearing on a TV show in Moscow today, said any military action against Iran would have catastrophic consequences. Putin called any U.S. moves a dangerous escalation with unpredictable results. The leaders of China and North Korea aren't saying anything publicly about the Iran shootdown. Xi Jinping and Kim Jong-un are meeting in North Korea's capital, Pyongyang. They appeared together in an open-top limousine earlier today. Xi is the first Chinese president in North Korea in more than a decade. A major Supreme Court verdict on the separation of church and state. The justices ruling that a 40-foot tall cross can remain on public land in Maryland. The symbol was erected nearly a century ago as a World War I memorial. Atheists sued to have the cross moved or changed. In the 7-2 decision, the court majority wrote, "The cross has become a prominent community landmark, and its removal or radical alteration at this date would be seen by many not as a neutral act, but as the manifestation of a hostility towards religion that has no place in our traditions." The national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, Christopher White, has been reporting on the challenge to the cross since it started. He joins us now. Christopher, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Emily. Good to be back with you.
Now, today's decision marks the end of years back and forth on this case. What is the history?
Well, this case goes back to really 2015, and that's when it first started making its way through the appellate process. It's been heard by a number of judges, and so it's sort of fourth time being heard today, reaching the high court. And really, one of the things that's important to note here is that it was Governor Hogan in Maryland who really took this case forward and fought for the right for this, cross to stay put. He was the one championing this. It wasn't religious groups, so there was a broad coalition that had really formed, not a handful of religious people that were trying to fight for this.
Now, the court's ruling was quite strong and with a sizable majority. What was their main argument for letting the cross remain standing?
Yeah, it's rare. It was a 7-2 ruling, which is quite rare. I mean, we're used to these close, sort of narrow 5-4 rulings, and I think the 7-2 ruling kind of shows that the court felt very strongly that the cross should stay. Their main argument being that, and it's similar to that of the governor's, cross was a part of our history. This is a symbol of our community. It's not about enshrining a religious mandate or any sort of religious practice. It's representing a particular time and place that has value to us and not just religious individuals.
Now, Christopher, going forward, do you think we're likely to see similar challenges?
Yeah, these sort of cases crop up with some regularity. They tend to be driven by more hardline activist groups that want a sort of strong separation between church and state.
Christopher, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Of course, great to be with you.
The evil of human trafficking is being condemned today by the United States. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo listing the countries who are the world's worst offenders. They are known as Tier 3 violators.
The lowest possible designation we're given once again to China, Iran, North Korea, Russia, Syria, and Venezuela, among others. A few countries were added to the Tier 3 list, including Cuba. Some of these governments allow human traffickers to run rampant, and other governments are human traffickers themselves.
Pompeo said the worst offenders are facing cuts in U.S. financial aid. Stay tuned. In just a few moments, a very human face to the crisis of human trafficking. The story of a young woman who has found happiness after living through horror. That's still ahead on Currents News. There's pushback tonight against Governor Andrew Cuomo's new law to give driver's licenses to undocumented immigrants. The bill was signed Monday, and in 6 months the licenses are supposed to go out. But some New York State county clerks are taking a stand against the measure. Officials in Erie, Rensselaer, Niagara, and Allegheny counties are saying they won't be issuing the licenses, arguing that the New York law conflicts with federal policy. A Christian church in Pittsburgh is safe tonight after an alleged plot to bomb the house of worship was broken up. The FBI arrested a Syrian refugee and accused him of intending to attack the church. The suspect, Mustafa Al-Omir, is facing several charges, including providing support to ISIS. Charges of racism and online threats are being made against a large number of police officers in 2 major U.S. cities. John Lawrence reports the latest.
In Philadelphia, more than 70 police officers placed on administrative duty. They're accused of spreading racial or hateful material on social media.
Internal Affairs has identified and prioritized the posts clearly advocating violence or death against any protected class such as ethnicity, national origin, sex, religion, and race.
Thousands of these comments were compiled in 8 jurisdictions by the Plain View Project. They include officers wanting to ram vehicles that have Obama stickers and threats of violence allegedly written by police officers.
We are equally disgusted by many of the posts that you saw and that in many cases the rest of the nation saw, not just people in Philadelphia.
Hundreds of miles away from Philadelphia, a similar situation in St. Louis. 22 officers there are barred from bringing cases to the circuit attorney's office because of social media posts.
Hopefully the next prosecutor will have the sense not to do things that make it easier to be a criminal and harder to be a cop.
That does not mean that the criminals will not be prosecuted. Their partner will go over and present the application for warrant. It doesn't mean that the case goes away and the defendant goes free.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
An update tonight on the Hyde Amendment, the law that prevents taxpayer dollars from being used for abortions. Attention was focused on it when Joe Biden reversed his long-held support for the measure after coming under fire from other Democrats. The U.S. House is renewing the Hyde Amendment in a bill that funds the Department of Health and Human Services. A last-ditch effort to kill the amendment failed. Senate approval is expected. Pope Francis is remembering refugees in a special way today. The United Nations is designating June 20th as World Refugee Day. The Holy Father is calling for everyone to stand together with those who are fleeing wars, persecutions, and human rights violations. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops is saying there is a critical need to assist our refugee brothers and sisters and make them feel a sense of welcome. It is imperative for us to highlight the contributions refugees make in our communities. A delegation of Mexico's bishops meeting with the country's president, Andrés Manuel Lopez Obrador. The leaders tackled a number of big topics, including the migration crisis and bringing peace to the country. The bishops pledged the church's support in the search for the common good. There's a lot more news headed your way. The story of a human trafficking victim that's transformed one of happiness and hope. Catholic schools, kids putting their faith into action. Their goal is to help other kids. Bishop DiMarzio is honoring women and men who are making a difference in the Brooklyn Diocese. A major breakthrough for the people who help put food on your table, the farm workers in New York State. The legislature has passed the Farmworker Fair Labor Practices Act. The measure guarantees worker protections, including collective bargaining rights, unemployment insurance, and a new sanitary code for migrant housing. The New York State Catholic Conference issued a statement that says the bishops of New York State are grateful and relieved that after more than 2 decades of advocacy, the legislature has passed a version of the Farm Workers Fair Labor Practices Act. At long last, our state is saying farm workers are equal in human dignity to the rest of society. Bishop DiMarzio honored parishioners who have given their all to the Brooklyn Diocese. The bishop, along with Catholic Charities, held the dinner last night at Cipriani Wall Street in Manhattan. The honorees, who were all people who made huge contributions of service to the community. The dinner, which benefits the programs and services of Catholic Charities, first began 70 years ago. As Bishop DiMarzio explains, it's part of a great history.
Catholic Charities has been running around for 120 years. So we have a lot of tradition here, a lot of tradition helping people. That's what Catholic Charities is about.
You always do, and you do without asking, and really, I still have a hard time with this because I just feel like there's so many people that do so much more.
We have a number of honorees this year that really are part of the background and the backbone of Brooklyn and Queens and have really allowed Catholic Charities for so many years to help so many people.
6 employees of Catholic Charities Brooklyn and Queens also received an award. The dinner raised $1.3 million for Catholic Charities programs. Meanwhile, in Queens, kids are helping kids as they work hand in hand with a local Ronald McDonald House to help sick children and their families. And they're having a bit of fun as they do it. 2, 1. The ribbon has been cut, the rides have been blessed, and Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament Catholic Academy's 2019 Carnival has kicked off.
I'm going to play some games, go on some more rides.
But the second annual event isn't just a ton of fun. It's also a way to give back. The carnival doubling as a fundraiser both for the school and for the Ronald McDonald House.
It's amazing. I'm a very big believer that little hands helping little hands makes a huge difference in a child's fundamentals. And if they learn the meaning of giving, they definitely grow up to be amazing adults.
Teresa Bruccoleri of the Foundation's Long Island House says for years the school has been a big supporter, raising thousands of dollars for them, not including the money from this carnival fundraiser.
Today we stand together as a community.
Christine Lucchese organized the event. She says it's a great way to teach students about giving back.
And they just can't wait to have fun and to give back, because we've been talking about this foundation for about a month and a half now, really letting them know what the cause is about, why we're doing this, and we really want them to learn the meaning of giving back as a community, giving back as a person, and really becoming one.
Maura McCarthy, who's on the Academy's board of directors, explains giving back is an important part of a Catholic education.
We try to instill academic values, religious values, and community support values. And it's so great. Throughout the year, we have shown videos on how that house really helps support families.
And the students love it.
I would be sad if I had something wrong, and it's just happy. It's just fun to help someone else.
This school is accepting cash or gift cards in any amount for the Ronald McDonald House. There's a booth at the Carnival where that can be dropped off. Today, the event was only open to students, but starting tomorrow, the public is invited to come out and have some fun. The Carnival is happening on Friday from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., on Saturday from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m., and on Sunday from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. It will take place at Our Lady of the Blessed Sacraments Catholic Academy's parking lot located at 34-45 202nd Street in Bayside. Fundraising is on a worldwide scale thanks to aid to the church in need. According to their annual report, the Vatican-recognized foundation raised over $125 million to help persecuted Christians all over the world the last decade. Those donations helped to fund the foundation's over 5,000 pastoral projects. Aid to the Church in Need's executive president explains.
Projects are pastoral projects in order to support the persecuted, the suffering church, the church where they don't have the means, the financial means to fulfill their mission, and also to give a voice to the voiceless church.
One of the most recent areas to receive aid is Sri Lanka, which is still reeling from the Easter Sunday bombings. The head of the Archdiocese of Colombo, Cardinal Malcolm Ranjith, getting emotional after talking about the terrible pain following the deadly terrorist attacks, especially for one man who lost his wife and 3 children.
Oggi non c'è nessuno, solo la casa vuota. Ed è rimasto.
Cardinal Ranjith said he will meet with Pope Francis to tell him about the current situation in Sri Lanka. Earlier, we reported the U.S. State Department's new list of countries that have failed to take action to stop human trafficking. Now the story of one woman who has overcome the horrors of trafficking and modern-day slavery to find a new mission for her life, making sure no kid suffers as she once did. Martin Savage tells us her story.
It's a typical day for Sherry Ho, at home, caring for a group of children.
That's how they are. They're so comfortable. They feel like this is their home.
Ho runs a licensed daycare center in Orange County, California.
That's why I like to play with them and have fun with them.
Play is an important part of the day, perhaps because her own childhood was spent working as a slave.
A person told me, "Nima will never come back for you. Your parents sold you. You're gonna stay here forever."
Ho says desperate poverty in her native Taiwan in 1990 forced her parents to sell her for about $300. She was 7 years old. For more than 15 years, Ho worked for a wealthy family, first in Taiwan, then later when her captors moved to the U.S. In that time, she says she was subjected to daily mental and physical abuse. Cleaning, cooking, and caring for the family, sleeping on the floor, eating the family's discarded leftovers in a corner of the kitchen. Ho says once, when she was accused of stealing a sip of tea, a woman in the home dragged her by her hair to the bathroom, where she put a toilet brush into the child's mouth and twisted. In 2005, at the age of 23, Ho summoned the courage to escape. A woman who worked near the family store noticed something wasn't right. She encouraged Ho to call her if she ever needed help. Ho did, and they coordinated a time to meet in front of the house, where she ran into the waiting car. Special Agent Mark Spidell of Homeland Security Investigations worked closely with Ho in the days that followed.
When I first met Sherry, she was very fragile, very frightened and concerned, scared. As she has mentioned, she wasn't sure who to trust.
In 2011, Ho was just learning how to ride a bike, read, and use money. Everyday skills she'd never been taught living as a slave. Her one wish back then, to find her mother.
You want to find her?
Yes.
And what would you say when you found her?
If I find her, I say, "Mom, I love you so much. I always want to find you."
The story sparked a media storm in Taiwan, and its foreign minister helped Ho locate her family. This was the moment mother and daughter waited 20 years for.
I feel hurt, confused, but the first she told me was like, I'm sorry, and everything happened to you. But I just told her, say, everything is past.
With co-author Melody Fox, Sherry's written a book about her life called My Name is Also Freedom. She hopes sales of the book will help her reach even higher, expanding her daycare center to include help for other survivors of human trafficking.
I have a lot of dreams for my center. I want to help other survivors too, so they can able to go work. I just want to help other people.
A dream she works every day for, in hopes the next generation won't endure what she had to those many years before.
Sherry credits God for her ability to find freedom and for keeping her fighting spirit up. Augustus Tolton was an American slave during the Civil War. He then became the first black priest in the United States. Pope Francis advanced the sainthood cause of Father Augustus Tolton a week ago. Now the latest edition of the tablet is publishing an update, including how the Tolton example is very important to seminarians in the Brooklyn Diocese. Head over to thetablet.org to read the article. The tablet needs your support to ensure that Catholic journalism will thrive well into the future. You can do so by subscribing to the tablet so that it comes right to your mailbox. You'll save up to 55% by having it delivered to your home versus paying for it at church. Go to the website at thetablet.org/home55 or call 877-883-8356. And the tablet has a brand new page called Our Diocesan Family, where you can share your pictures of recent baptisms, Holy Communions, confirmations, marriage, all of the joyous sacraments. For more details and to submit your photos, go to thetablet.org/ourdiocesanfamily. Your picture may be published in an upcoming issue of the newspaper. Still to come on Currents News, a highway crash that turned into an inferno. We'll tell you what happened next. And the reasons why a family is jumping for joy at church. We'll be right back. A dramatic rescue in the middle of a highway in Wisconsin. A driver is pulled to safety after a terrible chain collision. A semi-truck fell over the edge of a freeway, collided with another truck, and exploded into an inferno of flames. It's unclear what caused the crash. Photojournalist John Drilling witnessed the deadly incident.
Right in front of me, I saw a semi jump over the median wall and into the traffic that was right in front of me. And a second later, there was an explosion and the whole crash started on fire.
The two semi-truck drivers were killed. According to law enforcement, 2 other drivers are seriously injured. A mother jumping for joy while attending Sunday service at a Christian church in Connecticut as she is surprised by her soldier son. Army Specialist Lee Knight planned the surprise while in service in the Middle East. He had gotten home a few days before the happy reunion, but wanted to wait until his mom was at church. She described the moment.
My heart was like,
ooh, Jesus.
I didn't see him come in, but I felt his presence. And that's when I knew my son was home. And the rest is history. You saw, I just lost it.
The mother and son had not seen each other in many months. That is Currents News. I'm Emily Drewby. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.